Good evening and welcome to the June 3rd regular City Council meeting. This meeting is called to order. Tonight the invocation is by Pastor Eric Jarvis from First Assembly of God Church.
Lord Jesus, thank you for this day that you've given to us, and Lord, for the joy that you place in each of our lives. Lord, may we never forget the rock from which we're hewn, that we're created in your image. Lord, we thank you for the promise from your word that your joy is our strength. I believe that's true for both ourselves individually as well as our nation. Lord, and that your word says that our joy is made fullest and most complete as we live in obedience to you and your word, your enduring word. So we thank you for that. And Lord, just ask that you would be in this meeting, grant us wisdom from above, and lead our leaders and our servants, Lord, who help serve in this community. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Megan, could we have a roll call, please?
Jeff Arnold.
Here.
Mary Hosley.
Here.
Wendy Onuki.
Here.
Joe Reeser.
Here.
George Sleeper.
Here.
Letitia Wilkins.
Here.
Annie Brown.
Here. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? The agenda is approved. In community updates, the South Haven Area Community Foundation presentation of 2024 grant awards.
Hello, Mayor and members of the commission, or council members, excuse me, I'm in the wrong meeting, I guess. I want to thank you for having the South Haven Community Area Foundation here this evening to show you the exemplary work that our nonprofits do in this area. If you were outside a few minutes ago and you saw all of the photographs that were being taken and all of the energy and the discussion that was being had, you'd be so proud of our community. I think that's what nonprofits bring to us. They bring energy, they bring commitment, they bring innovation, they bring ideas, they bring collaboration. And you could see it there on those front steps as Tom was taking those pictures. So it's an honor to be here tonight because I think our community is made up of all of our volunteers and the volunteers that are on all of these committees and the leadership and the sustained leadership we have in the town for all of our nonprofits. It's really remarkable. So given that, I would like to say that through the generosity of donors in our community, the foundation has awarded $98,700 this year to 24 nonprofit organizations. And we know that these groups only enhance who we are as a community and serve the needs of our community. And I have to say, when I look around at them and I saw them on the steps, this is what community looks like. This is coming together as a healthy, vibrant community. These folks collaborate, as I said, and they innovate, and they really are working for the common good. So in addition to our group tonight, the Community Foundation's Youth Advisory Committee, which is part of the foundation, is led by Trevor Smiley, and he is from the South Haven Public Schools. And that group of students are learning about giving. And they gave $3,600 to teachers in our public schools. So thank you, Trevor, and I know you're here somewhere. And I also want to thank the teachers for the work they do in our public schools very much. And I think we have some grant committee members here today who are part of the foundation, the Community Foundation. So would you stand and be acknowledged? I have two here, another one. Standing. All right, I couldn't be prouder, though, to introduce these organizations to you. Our first one came in full force today, and we were delighted that they did. This is their first award that they have received, and it's one of our Tier 1 awards, which is $1,000 or less, and it's the Bangor Public School Trap Team. Would you come in, please? Well, thank you for making the trip in tonight, and we appreciate the work that you do with our young people over in the Bangor schools. Thank you, and thanks for coming. Now, as I read the names of the organizations, they will stand and be recognized. Junior Achievement of Southwest Michigan, Hope Parent Resource Center, the Minton Children's Museum, L. Van Humane Society, the South Haven Theater Series, the South Haven Speaker Series, Foundry Hall, We Care, Girl Scouts Heart of America, Beautify Pullman, South Haven Scott Club, Liberty Hyde Bailey Museum, Youth Development Corporation and PAL, Our Town Players, South Haven Center for the Arts, South Haven Ambassadors Program Education, Caring Connection, South Haven Steelheaders, the Primal Outfitters, Collective Mess, Hospice Care, Southwest Michigan, South Haven Performance Series, South Haven Memorial Library. Thank you all for your fine work in this community. For those of you who have not received their check from me yet, I will meet you out by the doors. Thank you so much for having us here today and reflecting those good deeds and good works in our community.
Thank you, Janice Varney, for all your support and your generosity. You're right. This is what community is all about, so thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have a proclamation for Pride Month. Whereas individuals who identify as lesbian, gay, transgender, question, or queer celebrate Pride Month each June, and
whereas the city of South Haven values the respect, the dignity, and the safety of every person and is committed to improving and increasing diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and awareness, and
whereas South Haven's LGBTQ+ residents make our city a more welcoming place to work in every facet of our local economy and live in every neighborhood in our town, and
whereas our tourism industry depends upon welcoming all people to visit, live, and work here, and to increase diversity of our community, and
whereas over the last 30 years, our LGBTQ+ community has grown, even in the face of discrimination, to become a safe, welcome, active part of our community, and
whereas the city of South Haven celebrates the diversity of all sexual orientations and gender identities and pledges to treat all citizens with fairness, respect, and dignity, and promotes a city where everyone can love as they identify and transition into the gender they recognize as their own.
therefore, be it resolved that the South Haven City Council hereby recognizes the month of June as LGBTQ+ Pride Month. And we'll take a picture now, and I invite all our allies and friends and supporters to join me in the picture. City Council can stand in the back if you'd like.
Come on the other side of the chair? I don't know. That's better.
And a nice group there. Should be able to get everyone. I think I got it, just in case.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys.
It is now time for public comment for items on the agenda, excluding items scheduled for public hearing, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Hello. This is very nice of you guys to send over and to recognize the LGBTQ plus community. My name is Trent Morgan. I got you, Jeff. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am the founder and board president of a new nonprofit, so everybody that just left, if they listen in later, get a hold of me, which is called South Haven LGBTQ plus Advocacy. I am also the organizer of South Haven's first Pride event that will take place this June the 29th at Stanley Johnston Park. And I do want to thank Madam Mayor and Council for recognizing June as LGBTQ plus month tonight. It was so nice to see everybody in the audience who identified or as a strong ally and support to come up and stand by us and show community. Tonight is monumental for our community, both for the queer community and those who call South Haven home. Tonight we started something new. We meld together as one, and this is an example of how advocacy works. I have a good quote that I like from RuPaul. It's, "You're born naked and the rest is drag." The meaning is every day you wake up, you have a choice of how you'd like to present. I'm sure as council members, before you arrived tonight, you decided you wanted to present as a leader, regardless of how you felt in your heart, whether a weak moment or a stressful day. You chose an outfit and an attitude that you want to project as a leader, which is a form of drag. We have no bounds to our past. We can wake up every day and choose our future. So tonight, I am asking anyone who is listening to be who they are, regardless of what they did yesterday. I cannot speak for every LGBTQ plus voice, mine only and those who have shared with me. Tonight, I'm using my voice for the voiceless. For the youth who are questioning, but hear a loved one say disparaging remarks. For the beautiful humans who were born trapped in a gender they do not identify with or are afraid that their workplace may fire them if they begin transitioning. For the souls soaked in substances, trying to escape their truths and relieve the pain of holding a secret. And for the bodies that lie in caskets after they die by suicide. I often hear folks say things like, "I just don't understand why." My response is, you don't have to understand, you just have to accept. A receptive ear goes a long way. If you are ready to listen with an open mind, understanding will come your way. Lastly, Franklin D. Roosevelt says so famously, "Nothing to fear but fear itself." This means a lot. For the allies who support the LGBTQ plus community, thank you. You decided to not let fear keep you quiet in our toughest times. And for those who don't want to support us as humans, I say, nothing to fear but fear itself. Please don't be afraid to open your mind to new thoughts. Don't be scared when you're sitting with your friends and something is said, and speak up, and please don't be afraid to reach out for questions. I'd also like to shout out some helpful resources to be a better ally and a fellow community member. One being the Trevor Project. You can find them online. It is a wonderful resource for youth, for parents, grandparents to better understand the queer community and how youth view it. And another one is anyone who's struggling with substance abuse, loneliness, or ready to find out what is on the other side, please pick up your phone and dial 988. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, council members, fellow South Haven residents, I'm Craig Massey. I'm a retired field artillery officer and South Haven resident for the past 30 years. I'm here because I am a resident and I am a Christian to voice my opposition to this proclamation to recognize this month as LGBTQ Pride Month. My reasons follow, but in essence, Holy Scripture states that God created man and woman for his purposes, and this proclamation is clearly against God's will. History shows that things do not go well for governments which go against God's will and his stated plans for his creation, and I don't wish to see this happen to South Haven. The Christian conviction against what Pride Month is rooted in and compelled by deep concern, care, and ultimately love for persons who view themselves as member of the LGBT community. I have learned over time that proponents of Pride Month understand that one of the values of such a celebration is to uplift the LGBT community. We saw this moments ago. The argument goes perhaps something like this. If we celebrate the LGBT community, the LGBT individuals can come out and live a shame-free life, celebrating who they are rather than repressing their identities. This line of reasoning also means that it's possible for the proponents of Pride Month may naturally conclude that those who are against this celebration as not caring for the members of the LGBT community, and this is dead wrong. In fact, the Christian stance against Pride Month is driven by love and concern for those in the LGBT community. As a Christian, I firmly believe that the message and ethos of Pride Month are deeply harmful to LGBT individuals and to society as a whole. Christian opposition against it is an attempt to show Christian love for LGBT individuals from what the church sees as ultimately a harmful and destructive way of living. From a Christian perspective, Pride Month is harmful because it affirms and encourages and celebrates what Holy Scripture plainly identifies as one form of sin, which is against God's nature and his plan. As such, this sin and all other sin is destructive and thwarts the generation and sustaining of life as God intends it to be in his word. As with all sin, this celebration is an act of rebellion against our Creator, who deeply loves us and expresses his love by prohibiting that which is against our well-being and reduces our desire to glorify him. Pride Month wrongly assumes that all sexual desire is natural and therefore right, normative, and good. This is an idea that's associated with pagan practices from the beginning of history and by philosophers during the Enlightenment. Holy Scripture states otherwise, and I want to be perfectly and completely clear that Scripture says that any and all sin separates us from God. Unrepentant sin ultimately results in eternal separation from God, the God who created us, humanity, to share in his goodness, justice, righteousness, kindness, and all of his other attributes. I shall continue to pray that the God who created the universe from nothing will forgive everyone engaged in any kind of sin in this city, this state, this nation, and the world who truly repent from sin and indoctrinating others, especially children, into participating in any form a sinful life. In defense of the LGBTQ life, there is much talk of love, but it's safe to say that the most loving act that any Christian man or woman can undertake is to attempt to help a brother or sister make sound decisions about sin and his or her relationship with God that will result in not being separated eternally from the God who made them and who desires to spend eternity with all his people. Councilmen, councilwomen,
Your time
I've
is
said
up.
what I'd like to say.
Your time is up.
Good evening.
Your time is up. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Danielle Veenstra, 1220 Monroe Boulevard, a pastor in the United Church of Christ. And I stood up here as a proud ally, thankful that South Haven is moving toward creating a more safe atmosphere, especially for our young people who are on the LGBTQIA spectrum, questioning, not sure. I had a long conversation today with someone at my church, and she said, "Why does this matter? Why does this kind of thing matter?" And I said, LGBTQ persons don't know where they are safe. The suicide rate among young people who identify as LGBTQ is astronomical. As the young man said, they end up in a box being put in the ground. The LGBTQIA community does not wish to indoctrinate anyone, children, adults, or others. They simply want to be recognized for who they are. From what I read in the Bible, I don't get to judge who is and is not a sinful person. We're told the angels sort the sheep and the goats. Romans 8:38 and 39, Paul says, "Neither height nor depth nor principalities, nothing separates us from the love of God in Jesus Christ, our Savior." We don't get to separate. We don't get to declare who God hates. That isn't in our purview. And being LGBTQ isn't all about sex. I don't go up to my heterosexual friends and say, "So, have you had sex lately? What kind of sex you having? Is it good?" None of my business. There is so much more to LGBTQIA people than their sexuality. It is a matter of identity. It is a matter of personal wholeness and wellness and health. So many murders have been perpetrated because people are fearful of queer people. There is no reason to be afraid. They do not wish anyone harm. They're not pedophiles. They are simply human beings. I identify as a cis female, which means I identify with the biological gender given to me at birth based on my physicality. My pronouns are she and her. But I just want to thank the city for starting to move towards a direction of having my friends who are queer not feel so afraid to walk the streets of South Haven, and they are. They look around when they leave a restaurant, they look around, am I going to be okay walking down the street? I hate that idea that anybody, and especially our young people who remain in the closet because they are afraid. Christians want to talk about what the Bible says, and you have to take it all in context of the history when it was written, and the fact that in Genesis, God is not gendered. In the creation story, the words used for God have no gender. And if God in the original story has no gender, who am I to say somebody chooses a gender for themselves that wasn't given to them at birth? I don't get to judge, and neither should anyone else. It's all about love, and thank you.
Thank you, Danny.
David Veenstra, 1220 Monroe Boulevard. Guess what? I agree with my wife.
You're having a good day.
As a Christian, when I hear someone talking about the plain, simple teachings of the Bible, I'm puzzled because I've studied the Bible from childhood on up, and I can't see how anyone can call the Bible plain or simple. I would invite anyone who would like to have a discussion with me about the specific verses in the Bible that they think addresses the topic of homosexuality. I'd like to talk to them about it. The sin of Sodom is called out one place. There's only one place in the Bible that gives a reason for the sin of Sodom, and that's in Ezekiel 16. And it says that the sin of Sodom was not feeding her daughters, not caring for the poor. That is the sin of Sodom. There's nothing in the story of Sodom that says anything about why God decided to destroy Sodom. So let's have a discussion about all these Bible verses that you may think you understand, and maybe you've heard preachers, from when you were this tall, talk about what they mean. Well, they might not mean what you think they mean. So I would just invite anyone to that conversation, to a respectful discussion about that. I do think that the primary emphasis of what Jesus taught was love, compassion, inclusion, and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Dan Agnello, 964 Everett Parkway. I'm going to talk about personal STRs and business STRs. Gee, imagine that, huh? It's good that Letitia come up with a moratorium, and it got voted on last time. And I agree with most of the thing that's in the packet for tonight's meeting. And the number that you come up with should either be, I think it's 101, which is kind of high, or the better number is 100% of the PREs plus 10%, in case there's some hardships like Mary discussed later. And I'd like to see a schedule of what you're going to do as far as in regard to PSTR, personal STRs. We got something going on business ones, and we got to keep the momentum going on the personal. With regard to business STRs, the nonconformance forgiveness is still in there. And what you're doing is you're getting rid of all the mistakes that were made by staff for the past 8 years. And we have brought up, many residents have brought up STRs that are non-conforming. They don't meet the zoning requirement. They don't meet parking. They have the wrong occupancy calculations and go on and on and on, and nothing is done by staff. In fact, we sent another one out just recently because our city council said, lawyer said that there is no, what do you call it, no time as far as when you can decide, no statute of limitations on doing an appeal for an STR. So this was brought up again by a resident at the last ZBA meeting because she had been turned down 10 or 12 times by staff. It never got to the ZBA, which is against the ordinance. But the problem is, if you put this in there and you indicated that you feel there's a lot of non-conforming STRs, and there's probably 50 at least that we've already identified, but staff will not go and dig to them. We were told last week on one specifically that they are conforming, and basically believe me, in other words, I'm not going to bother with it. That's no answer, no detailed answer, just that, believe me, that's it. They don't want to go into it. If they don't have the time, then either hire somebody or have residents help you or whatever. But you've got to look into this. And it's not right to say that we have to go to the ZBA. Who has $2,000 to go to ZBA every single time that they want to contest a non-conforming STR? You know, it's $500, $600 to apply and $1,500 for your escrow. And that's crazy. And so by eliminating the non-conforming section of the ordinance, you basically wiped out the due process for the residents because they're not going to do anything. The staff will not do anything. They say they're too busy or whatever. And it's happened all this time. Since 2018, there's been a lot of mistakes in regard to how this thing is supposed to be enforced. And another thing, in the personal STRs, I'd like to see personal STR segments and number of rentals included in the yearly report, because supposedly by Kelly Tungett and others, they got a little bit better about that. But I don't see any numbers. I don't see any percentages. And I know for a fact that very few have reported. So basically, it's very regressive to take that out. Because, like I said, residents will have to pay money, $2,000, to contest the nonconformance. And that's not right. We expect more when our answers.
1
If we
minute.
ask a question, thank you. If we ask a question, we want facts to back it up. There had to be a reason why that was done, okay? If you say it's conforming, fine. Tell us how you came up with that decision. But we're not getting the answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Anybody else for public comments? Yes. All are welcome.
Okay, thank you. My name is Linda Warshawski, and I live at 05240 County Road 689. I just want to thank the council for taking this action, having this proposal out for discussion. And I want to say that, you know, once again, I feel kind of the naivety of this whole community who think all is one, that every person is the same. Well, I don't answer to the same God some of you answer to. My God is loving, tolerant, and sees no different. All of us are human beings and Holy Spirit's in his mind. I think that so many people here don't even realize that, you know, you may believe in Jesus. I don't. I'm Jewish. Obviously, very few Jewish people live here, although we have quite a history here. So we don't look at it, and we don't have an evil God or a God that wants to strike back at people. So I would say to all of you who have given birth to a child or have loved a child that was your niece or nephew or friend's child, and rock them as little babies and love them as they grew up, not knowing what any, you know, of them would become. They may murder people. They may be almost saints in how good they are in their lives. And I rocked a little boy like that. And I played with him. And I tried to build his self-confidence. He's gay. He's very happily married to his partner, to his husband. They live in Grand Rapids. But I would want to know which of you or in the audience would say to do that differently. Many of you have loved these children, and what happens when they're adults and they make have the realization that they are gay, LGBTQ and plus. So I think I would like you all to broaden your thoughts about this, that all people are equal, and it's so wonderful that South Haven is recognizing the difference, not the difference, maybe the commonality, that we are people and we care about our community, and that's why we had so many people here earlier to represent the goodness in our community. And hopefully we will continue to be good citizens and fair and accept people where they stand. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
Well, I'd like to, regarding the short-term rentals,
Oh, you have to say your
Tom
name.
Tucker from
Excuse me.
556 Superior is my
Did he say it?
closest address.
Oh, got it.
And so about the short-term rentals, I'd like to ask a question. I just know what I read in the paper today, and it seems like it said there were 500, I'm going to call them, the business types, and 100 of the personal types. And that seems a little bit out of proportion to me, but I wanted to ask a question, and that is, of these business types, if there's 500 buildings that are short-term, that type of short-term rental, how many owners own these 500 buildings? Is it 500 people, and what part of them are residents? Anybody answer that question?
We can't answer questions during this
Okay,
time.
because what I'm going to say depends on the answer to that question. Anyway, it seems to me like the business rentals, there's too many of them, and the personal rentals, there's too few of. That's all I want to say about that. And I've got another, just something I'd like to say that I don't like about the way the water and the sewer and electricity bills work, where Ready to Serve adds up to, I think, $90 a month if you don't use any electricity or water. And I think people ought to be charged for their water and sewer and electricity depending on how much they use. And they could raise the prices to compensate for the loss on the Ready to Serve charges. And those are those are my two comments.
Thanks, Tom.
Joe Wilkins, 811 Indiana Street. Point of information, if I can get clarity on something. Previous mayor, along with several former councilmen, stated personal short-term rentals was put in place for hardship issues. Was that a correct statement by our previous mayor and several of the council?
We can't answer questions during this time. This is only a time for you to speak.
Okay, so you all will have a discussion on personal short-term rental that we can't even get involved in. And so this process is hard to get by. So I can't get that question answered. Well, let's just assume.
We can
let's
ask your
just
question
okay.
during that time, when
During
we're
what time?
speaking with the attorney.
Oh, we'll get another opportunity to come up?
No, we will ask your question for you.
Okay, so just say that what I stated was true, that Mayor Scott stated on several occasions that the personal short-term rental ordinance was put in place to help residents with their taxes or any type of hardship. And if that is the case, then the personal seemed to be a little out of line too. And so I would entertain a discussion even more to see what we could do, since it's hard to even enforce, to see if those personal short-term rentals, do they apply for a license as well? If they're really based on hardships, if what Mayor Scott stated was true. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? If not, we'll move on. Consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda items A through G?
I move to approve consent agenda items A through G.
Second.
Could we have a roll call, please?
Arnold?
Yes.
Hosley? Yes. Onuki?
Yes.
Reeser?
Yes.
Sleeper?
Yes.
Wilkins?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes, thank you. Next, old business, The City Council will be asked to consider approval of the following resolutions related to the fiscal year 2024 to 25 budget. Resolution A, 2024-25, a resolution adopting the 2024-25 fiscal year budget for component unit funds of the City of South Haven, Michigan. Kate, do we want to go with each item, or?
And that's up to you, Mayor. I know that, I know we've had a lot of discussion about the budget. We've broke this down, and we've had a public hearing about that. I'm here to answer any questions council may have. Finance Director Michelle Argue is here if there's any questions, so I guess that's up to you. If you have any individual questions, or we can talk about this generally, then take a motion to approve all resolutions at the same time. It's up to you all.
Okay. Are there any questions for item A? Okay. Is there a motion to, let's do it item by item. Is there a motion to approve Resolution 2024-25?
I move to approve Resolution 2024-25, a resolution adopting the 2024-25 fiscal year budget for the component unit funds of the City of South Haven, Michigan.
Second.
Do we need a roll call for this, or not necessarily? Okay, all in favor say yes?
Yes.
Opposed? Moving on to item B, Resolution 2024-26, a resolution adopting the 2024-25 fiscal year budget for general, special revenue, debt service, capital projects, and fiduciary funds of the City of South Haven, Michigan. Are there any questions or discussion on this one?
I move to approve Resolution 2024-26, a resolution adopting the 2024-25 fiscal year budget for general, special revenue, debt services, capital projects, and fiduciary funds of the City of South Haven, Michigan.
Second.
All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Opposed? C, Resolution 2024-27, a resolution adopting the 2024-25 fiscal year budget for enterprise and internal service funds of the City of South Haven. Is there a motion or any discussion? Okay, let's go.
So, were we going to do a motion?
Yeah.
Before discussion?
Whatever you would like.
So I will,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I moved it, so go ahead.
I move to approve Resolution 2024-27, a resolution adopting the 2024-25 fiscal year budget for enterprise and internal service funds for the City of South Haven.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, just, I would like to thank Kate for speaking earlier today. I know there was quite a large budget put in for the beach safety, and lifeguard was not specifically itemized, but I know that that is one of our priorities. And I thank her for her explanation that being conservative, we put in the largest amount so that we have it covered, but appreciating that there were different amounts discussed in the different presentations, and that as things become more clear, amendments can occur to the budget as we progress through the fiscal year.
Any other discussion? All in favor say yes?
Yes.
Opposed? Item D, Resolution 2024-28, a resolution setting the 2024 property tax millage. Any questions or discussion? Is there a motion?
I move to approve Resolution 2024-28, a resolution setting the 2024 property tax millage.
Support. And I have a discussion. I'm sorry, usually the discussion comes after the motion.
Yep, I'm doing it both ways, so there's enough time since it's the budget.
Just, once again, I'd like to thank Kate for talking about the millage and clarifying, and this is for everyone's benefit, is that the millage that's discussed in Resolution 2024-28 is limited to the specific items listed, but our overall millage is different, so that people are not confused about
the overall millage when they get their bills.
Yeah, if I can, each taxing jurisdiction, which we are one, but the county and schools also issue this same form. So while it shows the taxing from the city around 20 mills, there's still additional taxes that are levied by both the school and the counties that you would see in your tax bill.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Okay, is there a motion?
Yep.
Are we?
We
We're all
just need
set.
to vote.
All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. Thank you. Next, the city council will be asked to consider the following actions regarding short-term rentals. Let's start with A. Consider adoption of Resolution 2024-29, a resolution adopting a 6-month moratorium on the registration of new personal short-term rental units. Kate?
Yes, Mayor, we have a couple items here today. We have the adoption of a resolution for a 6-month moratorium. Attorney Cliff Bloom is here as well. The second item is the review of the proposed language that we've been working on for the zoning ordinance language. And if council is satisfied with that, maybe there is a motion to forward this to the Planning Commission to begin their discussions. We've also put in here to consider next steps, because this is just one part of the amending of the resolution, or I'm sorry, amending the short-term rental ordinances, and that's maybe a third part to this discussion. So initially, I do have Cliff Bloom here, as I said, talking about the adoption of Resolution 2024-29, which is a resolution adopting a 6-month moratorium on the registration of new personal short-term rental units. This came out of our last meeting. This was a motion from the council to direct the city attorney to draft that. If there are questions, I can have Attorney Bloom walk through what that resolution says and answer any questions council may have. Cliff?
Questions? Joe?
On the personal short-term rental, I could go through the packet, but I believe the maximum number of people in a personal short-term rental is 12. Is that?
You're talking about the occupancy?
Yeah, occupancy.
That's my understanding.
I'd just like to have a discussion, or at some point, maybe not tonight, but making that number lower. I think 10 is a fair number.
I think we can do that in item B when we discuss that. Cliff.
Madam Mayor, if I can, good evening, council persons. I'm Cliff Bloom from the City Attorney's Office. Just, council person, if I could just back up a little bit. Obviously, as you all know, we really have two types of ordinances here. We've got the zoning ordinance, and then what we'll call the code. And it's, if I recall right, although I don't think this is up for proposed change, the occupancy is in the zoning. I don't know whether it's in the code. It's probably better in the code, because if it's in the zoning ordinance, every facility that has 12 or fewer would be grandparented. Whereas in the code, it doesn't matter whether you're grandparented or not. You can play with that and so on. It was our recommendation to the city and staff that the city deal with the zoning first. I call it triage. That's where most of the issues were coming up, and the caps and the lottery and so on. And I know staff and the council have obviously put a lot of time into this proposed draft for the Planning Commission. The code regulations, not that they're not urgent, not that they shouldn't be amended, but really until the zoning was well on its way, we recommended you not move forward on that. If this gets forward to the Planning Commission with the permission of staff, we're going to start on the code tomorrow. And we've got earlier recommendations, and so we'll put that together. So
Okay.
if it's in the code, there's no grandparenting, no lawful nonconforming use. As you know, if it's in the zoning ordinance, there is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a comment about,
Jeff?
I have a comment about the personal short-term rentals to kind of speak to Bishop Wilkins' question. It was Councilwoman Wilkins that brought up a cap on personal short-term rentals. So I was the one that mentioned that we hear from residents that they like to be able to rent from time to time to help with hardships or to help with some tax burdens. I don't know, I can't speak for Mayor Smith, and I, off the top of my head, don't recall him saying that's why personal short-term rentals were created, but I think that's how some people have chosen to use personal short-term rentals, if that answers Bishop Wilkins' question. And I was the one that mentioned the hardships when we talked about it our last time, because that's what we hear from people in town.
George?
A couple comments. I agree with Jeff as far as the reason for the personal short-term rentals. I've never heard the term hardship before. In our ordinance, there was a specific section that dealt with hardships that had never been used. But I agree that a lot of times in the discussions around personal short-term rentals, it was for residents or homeowners that wanted to rent out their property for a short period of time so that they could have some help in paying for the property taxes or anything else. I wouldn't necessarily consider that a hardship. It's just what they wanted to do. I do have some issues around the moratorium. First of all, I don't really feel that we need to have a moratorium on personal short-term rentals. I feel that that's going to block out a lot of people that might want to use that option, and I don't think that's good. I think there's some good in the personal short-term rentals, and I'd hate to lose that. I don't like the reason in the resolution that talks about the reasons for the moratorium. It looks like it's a lot like what the moratorium was on the business short-term rentals, and I see business and personal short-term rentals a lot differently. The wording of the resolution, where it gets on page 98 of the packet, I was confused because the letters A, C, and D seem to be saying kind of the same thing, but in different words. And I couldn't figure out why we were trying to say the same thing 3 different ways, and why we needed that. Also, the letter G says this resolution shall become effective immediately, but it seems like that was already covered in the letter A, which describes the start and stop of the resolution. Lastly, I was concerned because this moratorium would stop processing any short-term rental application, personal short-term rental applications in progress, and I was wondering how many of those there would be, and it didn't seem fair to stop those that are in the pipeline. And I just want to make sure also that the staff reviewed the wording in this resolution to make sure that they can do what we're asking them to do in this moratorium. That's it.
If I may, we have 6 that are in process right now. There's a variation of either inspection scheduled or, but the process has not been complete. We have reviewed this language internally. We've reviewed it with legal counsel as well.
Thank you.
If I could address the council person, your observations are very astute. My defense is courts are getting tougher and tougher and tougher on stuff like this. If you look at it, there is some method to the madness. If you look at A, that's kind of a general overall saying that the moratorium is in effect for 6 years. C gets into more detail with.
Months.
Oh, I'm sorry,
I said 6 years, 6 months.
6 months, thank you. Although time does fly. C is more detailed and gets into exactly what is part of the moratorium. If certain things, we didn't want it to be interpreted to mean you have everything you need for a personal unit, all approvals, but you don't have a building permit. We wanted to make sure that was covered. And then if you look at D, all the others talk about city staff processing, approving, and so on. D is directed to the property owner saying, regardless of what city staff does, you can't do it. The last part on the effective date is boilerplate. Now I'm going to really sound picky. A talks about the 6-month period and when it begins. It doesn't talk about when the resolution becomes effective. Again, that's why people don't like lawyers in courts. But all of this is based on experience in litigation where judges want to see exact things, not just general but detailed. But I appreciate their very thoughtful questions.
Mary.
Thank you. I did also notice the similarity with the business short-term rental language, but I also appreciated the fact that one concern is that so many, approximately half of the people who applied for the lottery also applied for a personal short-term rental certificate, and there's concern about enforceability, and that seemed to me to be similar enough to business short-term rentals to warrant the similarity in language because of the concern that we're trying to address. And I also had mentioned the hardship, and that was one reason I was concerned with a specific cap number, and that seemed more specific, whereas this gives us an opportunity to better identify what is going on and give us an opportunity to also finalize the amendments that we're working on in the zoning ordinance and hopefully the code of ordinances. I would appreciate understanding for the 6 that are in process, are they on properties that are PRE or not PRE? Because I think that was one aspect that has come out from listening to residents and goes to the discussion about the hardship. I think the personal short-term rental, it was shorter. It was meant to help the residents who would be here significantly longer to qualify for the PRE and would also then have a shorter term, but also help them get, have income to help with their bills. And one thing I appreciate the discussion with Kate earlier today is that although this is set for a 6-month moratorium, if the zoning ordinance is completed to address the issue for which this is helping us identify amendments to the zoning ordinance, this could be vacated, rescinded at an earlier point in time.
Correct.
So that was one question, and then just if there's any clarification on the 6M process.
Sure, and of the 6, 1 has an established PRE. There was another property that applied for PRE in a previous year, but it was not completed. The remainder do not have a PRE in place.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question. Did we ever come up with a number of local personal short-term rental certificates?
You mean versus PRE, which the ones that are permitted, which ones do have a PRE?
Correct.
I don't have that list in front of me, but I can work with staff to develop that list.
Anything else? Wendy.
Thank you. I was going to ask the question about whether this could be less than 6 months, so that's good to know. I struggle with this because I feel like the reason why we agreed to personal rentals and the way that we expected it to be used was a really positive benefit for people who live here, have a second home, and are able to, as it was said before, earn some income to pay for taxes or whatnot. But unfortunately, I don't feel like that's the only way that it's being used presently. And I feel like as a community, we're kind of hearing over and over, like, we just have too many short-term rentals, and whether that's business or if it's personal, I feel like a rental is a rental at this point, and it is taking away from people who live here potentially, and just kind of diminishing our quality of life for year-round residents. So that's why I requested this at the last meeting, and kind of where I stand today. I feel like just taking a look at it, pausing where we're at right now, and seeing what we come up with would be a good thing for the city and the residents.
Thank you. Joe?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get clarification. In your write-up, the very last page, in the bottom of the next to the last page, you talk about PREs. So with personal short-term rentals, if a person is homestead, PRE, they own that home, they live in that home, that was going back to the previous mayor, I believe was the intent. If a person lived in the home and they wanted to rent it a few weeks each summer, for whatever reason, you can call it a hardship. I don't know if we use that term, as George said, but it was defined as helping that resident. They have that choice. So with this, under our proposal, wouldn't we be addressing that using homestead PRE? Only those who have PRE, homestead, can have a personal short-term rental. Or is that not accurate?
May I respond, Madam?
Go ahead.
That's correct. As proposed, it's PRE. The prior zoning draft, and I know we'll get to this in a minute, really had three items. It had PRE, 180 days, and you had to live there. You had to reside there. The indication was, seemed to be a general consensus to take the 180 days out. So what's in there now is a PRE, and as one council person pointed out, you still have to reside there. That was a little ambiguous. We can take that out, but by doing that, you're relying 100% on what the state decides is PRE or not. That's one of the problems with relying just on the PRE and not saying they still have to reside there. There's an enforceability problem, of course, but in a worst-case scenario, at least you'd have that option. If you just go with PRE, you're relying 100% on what the state says.
Okay, that makes sense.
Can I make my second?
Go ahead.
And then, so my second comments, and this is to Mr. Tucker's question. He was asking about short-term rentals, and he said, well, how many people live here? And sometimes we get lost in the jargon. When we talk about PRE, we're talking about people that live here and claim this as their home. And that's what the questions were just now, about how many people actually live here that are claiming these personal short-term rentals. And then my second part of that is that I personally feel like George, that it's not needed, but I will be voting in favor of this because, as Wendy said, I do hear from the public that, and as I mentioned last time, this is going to give the city staff to show what I already know that they're doing, that they are managing them effectively. And so we'll take a 5-minute or 6-month timeout, I should say, and the city staff will demonstrate how well they are on top of these kinds of things. So that's why I'm going to vote for it.
Did you have another question?
Yeah, it was just related to the PRE, because I guess my understanding was that you don't necessarily have to be a resident to claim PRE. Like, there might be people who are here part of the year. They might say it's, the full, whatever, over 6 months to get the PRE, but they still might have a second residence where they're. Is that true or not true?
Yes and no.
Okay.
The law says you have to be a resident, but there's no bright line test. It's not you have to be here 6 months and one day. The state goes through a whole series, is your physical presence, is your driver's license here, are you paying utilities? So the law does say you have to be a resident, but it is theoretically possible for you to only spend 4 months here and be a resident and 8 months somewhere else if you meet all the tests.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mary?
So occupancy is in regulatory. It's not in the zoning. So to Councilman
Isn't it
Reeser.
also in the
It is
I
in
saw it
zoning.
on page
zoning? Is it for
104.
personal?
Yeah, section 1744 of our current ordinance does have the short-term rental personal units, does have the occupancy in that section.
So we obviously ought to make it consistent, but it's better in the regulatory.
And I forgot to mention, So the 500 business STRs, I believe those are the non-exempt business STRs. I believe there are 100 to 200 exempt business STRs, and then there's 101 total personal STRs. So if you're looking at the overall number, I believe approximately 500, I think it's down to 470 or something like that, is for the non-exempt that apply to the cap, the 1-4 cap. But there are others and attached condos, things like that, that do not fall in that 500 number. So there are more business STRs than the 500.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move to adopt Resolution 2024-29, a resolution adopting a 6-month moratorium on the registration of new personal short-term rental units.
A second.
Could we have a roll call, please?
Of course. Hasley,
Yes.
Onuki,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Sleeper,
No.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
and Brown.
No.
Motion
The
carries.
motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to B, review proposed language amending sections of the zoning ordinance regarding short-term rentals and consider next steps. Let's see if there are any questions or comments, discussion. Kate, do you want to start?
Sure, I know that we've had some discussion on this proposed language. We took some of your comments, and Attorney Bloom has roughed that up and put that to you. This would be a good time to go over if there's anything that we've proposed here tonight that is not what the council wants, because if this does meet substantially what the council is looking for, this may be a time to forward this on to the Planning Commission. So happy to walk through this. I know Attorney Bloom is here. I know some of you have mentioned some concerns, so this would be a time to kind of bring up those items.
George.
Thank you, Cliff, for your work on this, first of all. Last time we talked about the removal of the 180-day limit because we talked about it looked to be very difficult to track and implement. The wording that's there now still talks about each short-term rental personal dwelling unit must actually be physically occupied and inhabited by the owner of the unit involved. So even though we removed the 180 days, we still left that first part there, which to me makes it even harder to determine what that means, because now we don't have a 180-day limit. We have nothing. So if someone is there, 10 days for a year, does that mean they physically occupied it? I would suggest removing that first part and just saying that the short-term rental personal dwelling unit must have the PRE, and because that kind of implies occupancy, and it would be very easy to determine if that's the case or not.
I kept it in there as a placeholder because unfortunately, when it was suggested we take out the 180 days, I didn't ask the follow-up question. And you're right, in actuality, it makes it harder to prove. So certainly if that's the council's intent, again, I apologize, that was an ambiguity I didn't know the answer to, and certainly the language you proposed to strike would still be appropriate.
Any other discussion first about the 180 days?
What page is that on?
105.
Thanks.
And the 180 days has already been stricken. It's really about the physical occupancy requirement that George was mentioning. And I think Cliff kind of said this, is that right now it just says physical occupancy, which would be indeterminate as to which, the time period, which could be rather vague.
Yeah, the only risk you run, of course, is, as I said earlier, you're relying 100% on the state's determination of the PRE, which makes it easier for enforcement for the city.
Okay. Joe, did you have a question?
Yeah, under letter B, page 101, if you want to go by the numbers, it talks about the lapses. In other words, it's the part about abandonment, and it says 1 year. In my opinion, and maybe it's kind of late, 11th hour to do this, but I've always felt 1 year is too long. If someone doesn't apply for their permit, if a new buyer buys a home and they don't apply or accept the permit, I don't think it should go a year. I think it should go no more than 6 months.
There's a distinction here. I think what this is talking to is not the registration, because if they don't register, they're illegal right away. I think what it's talking to is being a lawful nonconforming use under zoning. If they're violating something else and they don't do it for a year or more. I think we base the year on, in the nonconforming use section of the zoning ordinance, I think it has a 1 year assumption of what a lapse or abandonment is, which, by the way, most courts have said that's too short. But and staff can weigh in on this, but I don't believe it's saying if you don't register, you've got a full year of using it. I think if you don't register on an annual basis, you're done. What it's saying is that for any other zoning reason, it's deemed that you've abandoned it. It's presumed after a year that that has happened. I know that's a really fine distinction.
Okay.
Welcome to my world again.
Wendy.
Thank you. I just had a few questions, I guess. So I know some residents have asked this question a few times, and I'm wondering if you could clarify for us. They've basically asked if a STR, a home that's being used as an STR, is sold, why does the permit have to transfer with the building instead of being tied to the owner? And is it possible to separate those out so when a building is sold, it's no longer an STR?
So it's interesting. Under zoning approvals normally run with the land. Zoning rates run with the land. But under the licensing aspect, you can require that if it's sold, or if it's owned by a corporation or an LLC or trust where majority control changes, you can require a new license. Again, that's something we really ought to nail down in the code part of it, and so on. So again, under the zoning aspects, you probably can't require that a new owner do it. The zoning approval runs with the land, but the licensing you can. Clear as mud.
Yeah, I guess so as it is now, it's part of the zoning, and therefore it runs with the land, or
Yeah, and
a
I
little
don't
bit of
know.
both?
Kate, is it in the code also that if it transfers title, do you know off the top of your head?
I have to go back and look. I believe the way we've been treating it is that, yes, it does run with the land, but, and people say, you can't transfer. And in fact, the permit says on the face, when you do issue it, this permit is non-transferable. But what we do require them is to re-register, and if their inspection was less than a year, then we can attribute that inspection for the current year. But any new owners would have to re-register it, make sure it's in their name, and that if it's needs to have a current inspection, that's for it. So there's relicensing that has to occur. But the use, we've been treating because the use runs with the land, but the licensure has to follow the owner.
We should deal with it in the code also when we do it. Now, if your question applies, you don't have to. I mean, the city, through the city council, could determine that we're just going to let them run with the land. So as long as they register every year, if you're in the middle of a year and it transfers, you could, via the ordinance, say, we won't require a new license or registration till the end of the year. I'm not advocating one way or the other, but that's a city decision.
Okay. And I was wondering, something you said earlier, maybe I misunderstood this at a previous meeting. If we updated our code of ordinances. So say the occupation in the zoning ordinance says 12 and the code of ordinance says 10. I thought I understood that the stricter one would be the one that people would have to follow.
Correct.
But, okay,
Correct.
okay. And then I just,
The reason I get to the 12 is, again, we keep going back to the zoning lawful nonconforming use. If they legally were operating and had more than 12, when the zoning regulations went into effect, you can't bring them down to 12. In the code of ordinance portion outside the zoning, you can. So the courts apply the lawful nonconforming use grandparenting to the zoning, but not to the non-zoning code.
So is the limit of occupancy, it's 12. Is it 12 for every residential place in South Haven?
For every non-rental?
Yeah.
I believe that there were some, I'd have to go back and look. I don't want to say something off the cuff, but I'd have to go back and look.
Okay.
And the building code might also have occupancy limits on
Right.
top of it. So we might have three different, we might have the zoning, the STR licensing, and then the building code.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Mary?
I'm going to try and tie a couple things together.
Okay.
So you had indicated that the lapse, so if they do not renew, then that they should not be renting.
Correct. Yeah, the way the ordinance is now, you have to every year.
So if they have their they file their application, but it takes a year to get things in order to grant it, should they be allowed to?
Because of our fault, because we're so backlogged, we don't approve it?
I have identified a couple STRs where they were on hold for more than a year, and they rented, I believe, during that 1 year time. And so in a 2-year span, they only paid one application fee.
They were on hold, though, because the city couldn't process.
I don't know. I don't have the
I mean,
details.
if it's their fault and they're not providing what they have to in the application, they're in violation of the ordinance. If for some reason the city's taking longer, that's kind of an open question. But again, I think that's probably a detail we're going to want to deal with in the code.
And then the 1 year lapse, that is if they do not apply for a year. Correct? Is that, so it's,
That's not the way I interpret it. The way I interpret it is if for some reason, they have to have, the registration's approved, and they have to have insurance, and there's a violation, or for zoning, the problem is there's so many permutations of what's unlawful, the lawful nonconforming use. We could literally have pages on that.
I think you're making more out of.
Okay.
My question
Go
was
ahead.
not clear. So if their 1 year expiry date comes up and they do not apply, that 1 year lapse is if they do not apply for a year from their expiry date.
You're asking that,
That's
what, I don't think
is-
that's the current.
Isn't that what, here, I need to, for the lapse? So,
on page 101B.
It also says a short-term rental registration or use. So abandon would go to use. I think arguably lapse would go to use also. But you're interpreting it to mean the registration.
well, I'm looking for clarity. So if they didn't reapply within the 1 year expiry date, what does at the time of the expiry date, if there has not been a reapplication, what does that, is that abandonment or lapse?
Well, abandonment would be the zoning. I think we're gonna have to study that more. That's probably something that I wouldn't
Okay.
recommend holding this up. But
Correct.
we can look for direction to give to the planning commission. on
Correct.
that.
And in that same section, so I appreciate the change to destroy pursuant to section 1904. That's really a natural type destruction, as opposed to the person demolishing and remodeling.
I think, and staff can correct me if I'm wrong, but section 1904, I think, has several different scenarios. And what this does is this pours over into 1904, because I think there's some circumstances where if it's destroyed by nature, act of God, et cetera, you have a certain time period. And I think even in there, if you take it down yourself, there's a certain time period if you're working diligently. So rather than come up with a separate set of rules just for the STR, we propose to pour back to section 1904.
Okay, that I think is something that we'll have to
Go into more detail.
clarify, because in the introduction to 1904, but it is discussing about non-conforming building, is damaged or destroyed by fire, wind, or other calamity. So it doesn't, I didn't take from that section that it applied when it was demolished. And when you then start talking about the decrease in number under the other, under 3 on page 102, you had removed the fault of the owner and just had that section. And in talking with Kate, she made the suggestion that maybe this is where if it's demolished by the owner, we would want to make sure it's not built bigger to increase occupancy, that somehow it's tied to what the occupancy is, so that the use is not more intense.
I understand you raise an interesting issue. That's something we are probably in the redoing of the zoning ordinance are going to want to look at, because if there's no other section in the ordinance other than 1904 that deals with destruction and abandonment in general outside STRs, we're going to want to add similar provisions that would say if you voluntarily destroy it or take it down and so on. That's one other probably technical item that we can look at for the Planning Commission. I wouldn't recommend holding this up for that, but that's a good point.
Those were my comments on that part. If you want, I can start on another part if other people don't have questions on the one section we were talking about.
Anybody else? Joe?
A real simple question. We require inspections on non-exempt business short-term rentals for the protection of those who are renting, as well as neighbors. Do we require insurance? And because we've now called them commercial properties, do they have to get commercial insurance, and are we making sure? Because a residential insurance may not cover a commercial property.
Good question. I think that's something that if it's not in the code, we should make sure it's in the code. We ought to set a minimum amount that would be increased, so you don't have to amend your ordinance every year by the rate of inflation. And again, I guess what type, we would put language in there saying that the insurance would have to cover the use that is being done there. I'm not an insurance expert, so whether a particular policy is a residential, commercial, or semi-commercial, or whatever, but I think that's something we definitely should deal with in the code portion of it.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments? Jeff? No?
Can I just,
Sure.
I know that what page is this? Page 102. It has that note, should Sherman Hills be removed from the PUDs? And I thought we all kind of agreed to take it out.
So if we take it out, does that mean there cannot be short-term rentals there?
It would not automatically be so. As you know, the council can approve PUDs and projects and expressly allow even beyond the ordinance if it so chooses. But as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, Kate, but Sherman Hills had approval, but the site plans probably lapsed, or no improvements and so on. So the question is it properly categorized with the other three? And it wasn't entirely, it sounded like the direction was it was going to be taken out, but that wasn't entirely clear to me.
My concern is I would like to keep some flexibility for Sherman Hills in case a developer comes and says, this is what I can do for your community and for housing. We can have some short-term rentals and a combination of affordable housing or low-income housing. So
The way it exists without any amendment is they can automatically do it. Since they've got a lapsed site plan, I assume if a developer comes in and wants to carry through on it, they're going to have to get a new site plan or an updated
That's
site plan.
correct. It's lapsed.
It's
There's not
lapsed.
been any movement out there, and it has lapsed. So there's not a valid site plan out there, or valid PUD either.
So at that time, if the city wanted to amend the PUD approval and approve the final site plan, it could allow short-term rentals.
Okay.
Because in your PUD section, that kind of cuts through this.
Okay.
That's out there. If the city council ultimately approves a new PUD somewhere and says it can have short-term rentals, or short-term rentals with these conditions, that overrides this.
Oh, so regardless of what language is chosen,
You could still, through the PUD process, if the city council approves
and it
the PUD,
overrides this?
it can override.
Okay, thank you. Mary?
Thank you. So I wanted to go back and just hopefully clarify the grandparenting aspect of this. I know there is concern of, what is lawfully existed. I know of the situation before the ZBA where the business short-term rental permit was challenged with regard to its compliance with the zoning ordinance, and the issue was removed by staff and not presented to ZBA. So how are we ensuring that we know what is lawfully existing as of December 31st, 2023? And why are we looking at that date with the amendments that we have? It's just a bit confusing, and clarity would be appreciated so that everybody's on the same page. We want to make sure that the non-conforming business STRs are corrected going forward, regardless of how long they've been in existence, because as you said, there's no statute of limitations.
So I'll pick that apart. You've got a lot of issues there. So we picked December 31 because it was easy. It's the end of the year and so on. It's when the relicensing, is supposed to be done and so on. We can't, this does not grandparent anything. The law does. The Michigan Constitution, the federal Constitution, state zoning enabling act says if something's a lawful nonconforming use, you can't stop it per se. And so there's no way of going out and determining that 500 of these and 100 of these or 100 of these are lawful nonconforming uses, just like any other non-STR lawful nonconforming use. In this city, you've probably got between lawful nonconforming uses and structures, you probably got 100,000 different lawful nonconformities. It's when it's challenged that you look at it. So this language is not grandparenting anything beyond what the Constitution and the law requires. So just like any other violation of the zoning ordinance, if staff finds a violation and they pursue it, that's one way of doing it. If they investigate and determine that there's no violation or it's so minor and don't pursue it, that's prosecutorial discretion. What you ask about is what happens if there's a complaint to staff, staff determines there's not a violation or it's not worth pursuing, and a neighbor has concerns. Currently, under the zoning ordinance, under state law, any violation, whether it's STR or otherwise, if the property owner who's violating it disagrees, they can appeal it to the ZBA. If an aggrieved party disagrees with an interpretation not to pursue a violation, that aggrieved party can appeal to the ZBA. But there are rules. You got to be an aggrieved party. A year ago, I would say not all neighbors are aggrieved. We've got a Court of Appeals decision from last December that says, excuse me, in the overwhelming majority of cases, neighbors are aggrieved. But they have to appeal within, I forget what, whether it's 21 days or 14. Yeah, within that time period. Now, you might say, if it's a property owner and they're turned down, they're going to know when the turn down occurred because they're going to get a letter, they're going to be told. For the neighbors, there's no legal requirement they be notified, and the courts are okay with that because the problem is the zoning department would probably have to issue, 30 or 40 letters a week to neighbors. But let's just say they appeal within the 21 days to the ZBA. The ZBA is then going to decide, was staff right? Was there not a violation? Is it so minor it shouldn't be pursued, and so on. Now, we've talked a little bit about statute of limitations versus filing a zoning appeal, and they're kind of different. The statute of limitations case I talked about said there is no statute of limitations for discovering and prosecuting a violation. So let's just say that there's a violation of an STR or anything else in the zoning ordinance, and staff doesn't know about it. And 7 years later, the neighbor comes in and files a complaint. If there is a true violation, staff could prosecute. That's statute of limitations. There's no limitation. In the earlier scenario I mentioned, though, if the neighbor files a complaint with staff and staff determines there's not a violation or it's very minor, that neighbor only has the 21 days or whatever to appeal to the ZBA. That's different than the statute of limitations. So discovering and prosecuting a violation in general, there is no statute of limitations as long as it continues. For purposes of appealing a decision by the zoning administrator, there is that 21-day limit. And I know that's confusing. And what's really difficult, and this really throws the courts into a tizzy, is what they say continuing wrongs. Let's say there's a violation and the appeal to the ZBA is late and the violation continues. That's probably the only chance the neighbor has. Or if there's a violation and the ZBA finds there is no violation, the neighbor can't keep filing. Those are what they call continuing wrongs. So I apologize, it's kind of it's a fairly technical area.
So when you say lawfully existed,
Lawfully in existence, yes.
what you've just said indicates that possibly it doesn't really matter. Because it's now even less clear when someone can challenge that.
Unfortunately, Councilperson, that's everything I just said applies to the whole zoning ordinance, not just STRs. And I actually am working on an email that I'll make so it can be made public that goes into this. There's no way of simplifying it, though, unfortunately. It's the same process that the Zoning Enabling Act has had in effect probably for about 75 years.
So, but here's the problem. So if someone has raised the concern, as Mr. Agnello talks about, and staff come back and say everything's fine, but that's all they say, it's a summarily dismiss it, can we put something in regulatory that there has to be some finding. How can we, because our residents deserve an answer. And a simple, it's compliant, I find deficient. I would like to know why it's compliant or why it's not compliant. Because what we are hearing from our constituents is that things are not consistent among short-term rentals, and that is why we have issues.
The answer is yes. I mean, the city council could build all kinds of safeguards into the ordinance, but then you're gonna have to triple your zoning department, because everyone's gotta remember, it's not just I mean, it's a zoning ordinance that thick. So every concern that you've mentioned in your constituents who applies to the whole zoning ordinance. And you might have a situation where in 1 year, there are a group of people that are concerned about the size of commercial signs or the number of home occupations and so on. A zoning administrator and zoning department has to make so many decisions, you would be effectively making the workload, you'd probably have to double and triple that department. And I'm not aware of any municipality that does that.
And I appreciate that, but it's just when the STR doesn't appear to the general public that it's compliant, and staff says it is compliant, then we have an issue. And how can we resolve that issue? And I don't see how this is resolving the issue, and that's my concern.
You folks are the bosses. We certainly can write all kinds of safeguards in it, but at what cost, how many resources, et cetera, that's the issue.
Does anyone else have questions or comments?
Oh, just real quick. So, Kate, are you looking for a motion on this, or are you looking just for feedback to Cliff so he can go forward and?
If there's anything that should be changed or that we need to change that in the draft, then we should probably know that. I would look to see a motion to send this to the Planning Commission to begin their review. That would be an official action. That way they know this is the draft and they can hear your comments and we can start that process.
I just have a question about, I read somewhere on here, it talks about signs. And I just want to point out that we already have a sign ordinance. So I don't think we need another attached to this. That's my feeling.
Madam Mayor, the reason we put that in there is kind of a placeholder. There does seem to be some confusion about whether residential sign regulations apply or commercial. Again, our recommendation, given that these amendments, in whatever form they're passed, are so important in timing, that it might be best to get it to the Planning Commission. It's obviously it's going to come back to you folks at the end, but there's a certain, I think, amount of urgency to this. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion to send it on to the Planning Commission?
I'll make a motion to send this resolution to the Planning Commission.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
And just to clarify, this isn't a resolution, this is draft zoning ordinance language to be reviewed. Is that correct?
Were you going to say something?
And I also had a question. Is that motion and second implicit with taking out the wording of not only the 180 days, but the residency and just leaving in the PRE?
I think that's what we decided, removing the 180 days.
The 180 days is already stricken. I think we're talking about the physical presence.
Physical presence.
Physically occupied provision.
I assume that was implicit in your motion second, but I wanted to clarify that.
If I could amend the motion to be forwarding the draft zoning ordinance to the Planning Commission with the removal of Sherman Hills, with the clarification on the residency for the personal short-term rentals, and also clarification to be discussed with regard to lawfully existed on December 31st, 2023,
And lapse?
and lapse.
Thank you.
And lapse and demolition by homeowner versus destruction.
Okay, is there a second to the amendment?
I'll second the amendment.
Okay. So we're voting on the amendment. All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? And now we are voting on the motion to send the amended form to Planning Commission.
Right.
Okay. Is there a motion to do that?
We've got that motion, that's what we're
Got-
voting on.
Great. And we have a second?
Yep.
Great. Okay, how about a roll call?
We have Onuki,
Yes.
Reeser,
Yes.
Sleeper,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Arnold,
Yes.
Hasley,
Yes.
and Brown.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mayor, before we go on to the next item, Cliff, did you have something? I'm sorry.
I just wonder if I could be excused from your line.
You may.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
for everything.
Before we do that, I know that as part of the next steps, I know that we've had some questions as to what is the next process in here.
Yes.
We've already sent this off now to the planning commission. We have adopted the moratorium. And I know that there's parts to be coming in the code of ordinances. I wasn't sure, this might be a good place to discuss those next steps.
Okay.
I know that Mary had questions, and Cliff, I know as you talked briefly, we talked about triaging, and we've now got the zoning portion off. What is the expectation for the code of ordinances part?
So I think as we discussed a little bit earlier, obviously, this is the city council's recommendation of the planning commission. Planning commission will have to schedule it eventually for a public hearing. They'll make their recommendation, it'll come back to you. Now that this has been moved to the planning commission, we will take the existing STR licensing regulations together with some suggested changes that were made a year and a half ago, and put together that package. That does not have to go to the planning commission unless you want to send it to the planning commission for recommendations, but it would be our intent to work judiciously quickly to get that to you. But we would recommend that you still move the zoning through as being the more important of the two.
Okay.
I think we got a question.
Just
Mary.
quick, Claire, you said over the last year, but our comments would have only been from them since January. So that, those are also being,
I think I've got some from, I'll pull them out. I think I've got some suggestions from over a year ago also. So
I
we'll
would
we'll pull-
like to see those because we would be the ones voting on it. So that, I would like to make sure that the amendments are based on our current city council.
Does it make sense to bring a rough draft at our next meeting and kind of go over what's deficient or what needs to be added on those? Or is that too short a
You
time?
know, we've
Cliff?
learned so much from some other municipalities.
Mhm.
What I would like to do is take all the suggestions, put them together. I'd like to have it done in 2 weeks, but there's no way that we'll be able to have it done in 2 weeks.
Our next meeting would be 6/17, and then after that would be 7/1. 7/1,
We'll
Possible?
do our best. That's going to be a fairly major undertaking.
yeah, I see.
For efficiency, could we see what you have for
Yeah,
recommendations?
we'll pull it
that
out.
are
And
already-
my memory might be defective on that, but I thought I saw some earlier ones. I could be mistaken.
Okay. Moving on.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor, before we go on to new business, is it possible to have a 5-minute recess?
Sounds good. If there's no objection, we'll have a 5-minute recess. Welcome back. We are back in session. Moving on to new business. The City Council will be asked to consider the approval of the following special event applications. A, Special Event 2024-26, the Shout Cottage Walk, to be held on June 29, 2024, from noon to 5 at various locations throughout the city. B, Special Event 2024-27, Juneteenth 2024, to be held on June 22nd, 2024, from 2 until 10 at Elkenberg Park. C, Special Event 2024-28, South Haven Jazz Festival, to be held on September 13th and 14th, 2024, from 4 until 10 p.m. at the Huron Street Pavilion and Dykeman Park. D, Special Event 2024-29, the 4th of July Parade 2024, to be held on July 4th, 2024, at 11 a.m. to begin and end at Elsie Moore High School. Patty, would you like to talk about the Shout Cottage Walk? You can come up and talk.
Thank you. The Cottage Walk has 5 cottages on the Cottage Walk on Saturday, June 29th. June 29th is a busy day in town, as you probably all well know. And we expect about 250 people to attend the Cottage Walk. And they have to have somewhere to park when they visit these 5 cottages. My application is for one of the cottages, which is 119 South Street. If you know where South Street is, on the North Shore by the marina. There is on South Street, the whole South Street has parking on the west side of the street. Now, there are 2 parking spots assigned to the, I can't remember who they are. I'll go back to that in a minute. There are signs for marina patrons only. They're sporadic. It's very unclear how many of these, there's about 18 parking spots on South Street, and it's unclear how many of those are assigned to marina parking. What I would like to do is have some of those spaces, some of those approximately 18 spaces set aside for the Cottage Walk. Just because of the location of 119 South Street on a Saturday, June 29th, with the Queen's Cup going on, we need to have somewhere for our visitors to park. And this is a Shout fundraiser, and it's an important Shout fundraiser. As you probably know, Shout is responsible for the fireplace, instituting that enhancement, plus there are many other enhancements in South Haven that Shout has been responsible for that have been a great asset to the city. And so the Cottage Walk is part of that enhancement program.
And are tickets on sale now?
The tickets will be going on sale next week.
And where will they be sold?
They're sold at the Visitors Bureau and the Chamber of Commerce up until June 29th. And then on June 29th, they'll be sold at the Farmers Market.
Great.
So I'm requesting that some of these parking spaces be set aside for the Cottage Walk.
And you can email Kate tomorrow? Or would you like to talk now?
We've been in contact already, and we were going to set us, we do have 4 cones that would be set aside. They will not be the marina parking. Those are the first 10 on the south end of South Street, but there's quite a bit of parking on there, so it would be starting at the beginning where there is no marina parking, because So those will be the first, those 4 spots would be available for you as part of the special event application.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for everything you do. Is there a motion to approve the special events, A through D?
I move to approve special event 2024-26 Shout Cottage Walk as read by the mayor. Special event 2024-27 Juneteenth 2024 as read by the mayor. Special event 2024-28 South Haven Jazz Festival as read by the mayor. And finally, special event 2024-29 the 4th of July Parade 2024 as read by the mayor.
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed?
Some discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Had a comment. I would vote yes. I didn't have a chance to speak. I just wanted to thank Kate for clarifying that with the Juneteenth event, the fireworks are not happening like they have in the past. And that there was a press release, and for Juneteenth, the fireworks are, if I read this correctly, because June 19th is not on a Friday or Saturday, it would be on the 3rd Saturday, so June 15th.
Yep, that's correct. In fact, we just updated our press release that went out before Memorial Day. We did not include the updated information about Juneteenth fireworks, so you are correct that the application that's in the packet, they crossed out fireworks, but they're not requesting to have fireworks. If they did, it would be allowed on the 15th, not the 22nd, when this special event would be approved. But either way, no fireworks would be allowed in the park outside of an additional approval from the council.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And then I just also want to comment too about the 4th of July parade, that most of our parades are 9 a.m., but this one's 11 a.m., so city staff and the police department can get some shut-eye after the
Yes.
fireworks before
That's-
having to get up and do it all over again.
That's correct. Also, we've started, MDOT has a new permitting application now for any parades that occur on the I-186 business loop. We just found that out with the Memorial Day Parade. Staff are working to obtain a permit from MDOT because this does, the July 4th parade does have us going, I think, a block onto the business loop. So that is in progress with with MDOT.
You'll have to remind Letitia and I about that when the homecoming parade rolls around.
Agreed.
Next fall. Okay.
Agreed. We may have to get a little bit of lead time on that one.
Great. Okay, anything else? Should we vote again?
I would.
Okay, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? The motion passes for all the events. Number 12, the city council will be asked to consider whether to opt out of the proposed ORV ordinance from Van Buren County. Kate?
Thank you. This is something that has been brought to us by the county county administrator. The county is considering a ORV ordinance for the entire county. We have looked at this with our city attorney. Now, while this ordinance is mostly written for townships, it could be opted in. I did put into the staff report that there are some pluses and minuses with opting in, but it would seem like knowing how much there's consternation with golf carts and ORVs and low-speed vehicles, the county ORV ordinance does allow for two-wheeled, three-wheeled, and four-wheeled ATVs that would not require necessarily rollover protection system, but could allow for just crash helmets. I don't necessarily see that being something that council would like to see. Is that also it would remove our registration requirement that would default to the county. I know that we have some requirements, additional requirements that we'd like to see with our vehicles. So with all that being said, if the council does want to kind of incorporate some of these different provisions, we can look at later amending our ordinance, but was putting this to the council, whether you'd like to opt into the ORV ordinance or remain, or opt out and look at any considerations later on down the road.
Okay, any discussion about opting in or opting out? George?
I'm more in favor of opting out just because, for one, this is not finalized yet, and I'd rather see whatever is finalized by the county. And also, I would not want to lose what we have in our current ordinance.
Any other opinions?
My thought was, I like the strictness of ours. Well, I'd be fine with opting in as long as we kept our specifics. But then listening to George, I also like, if it's not done, then perhaps we don't want get
Right.
involved, yeah.
Right, you may lose some of that flexibility. What you could do, and this is something we talked about, is maybe changing your hours of operation. 'Cause right now, we default to the state statute, and it allows for two different different times a year. It also does allow for people as young as 12 with the right people in the car, whereas the county ordinance would go to 16, and it would kind of mirror the sunset to sunrise. Either way, those are things that we could modify in our own ordinance, would have greater control over how that is applied.
Are you looking for a vote on this or a consensus?
I would say there might be a motion to opt out.
Okay. Is there a motion to opt out of the proposed ORV ordinance from Van Buren County?
I'll move to opt out of the proposed ORV ordinance from Van Buren County.
Support.
Any more discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? The motion passes to opt out. Moving on, the City Council will be asked to consider adoption of Resolution 2024-30, a resolution of support for a county-wide road millage renewal. Kate.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. I do know that Britt Witkowski from the County Road Commission is here. He made it just in time from his last meeting. The county is looking for resolution of support for the renewal of the county-wide road millage. This is a millage that has been renewed since 1978. These are funds that come to the county, and a portion is returned back to the city based on a taxing increment. It's based on the taxes paid, I think, by SEV value, and then a majority of it is kept by the commission to do road improvement projects around the county. I did put in that this will be a countywide millage that would be put to the voters on August 6th. This has already been placed on the ballot by the Van Buren County Road Commission. I do have Brett here if you have any questions about the resolution of support, which he has asked us for, and any questions you have.
Brett, would you like to speak?
Just the fact that we would appreciate your support. Oh, that's right.
We're on camera.
A lot of township meetings, they just talk all the time from the audience, so this is a little better and more formal, so thank you. It's imperative for us as a county to have this millage. Allegan County gets 18 million in Act 51 funds, which is what you pay at the gas pump. We get 12. Berrien County gets 20 million. Kalamazoo gets 26 million. And part of that's based on how many county roads you have. But at the end of the day, we pretty much have the same amount of miles. We have 1,372 miles to maintain. So it's imperative for us as a county to keep pace, to have this millage pass. And as your manager said, based on taxable value, that has been proportioned out to the cities and villages, of which South Haven gets, I think, more than all the rest of the cities and villages in the county combined. Based off you're very fortunate to have a very large tax base, as you know. So I'm glad to answer any questions on the millage.
Any questions? Mary.
The approximate amount raised, does that take into account increased values? We see them go up every year.
No, we just base it off, obviously we can't predict the future, so we just base it off this year's taxable value. So, if we have what we've had the last few years, which is 5+% growth, which I think is going to slow down a little bit, probably be to 4 to 6%. But if you were to build those in, those numbers would go up even more.
And does a portion go to the DDA, LDFA, and BRA? Do they?
Correct. Those communities like South Haven, Gobles, different places that have taxing authorities, anything above that base amount then goes directly to those taxing authorities, which creates quite a bit of confusion on the ballot. We get a lot of phone calls when people start seeing the ballot, especially from absentee ballot voters, because it does, by statute, have to include every taxing authority that's in a capture, whether it's a Brownfield, DDA, Keeler Township has what they call CIA, it's a neighborhood district, things like that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Congratulations on your daughter's marriage.
Oh, thank you. Busy weekend.
Good.
Our last daughter got married Saturday at St. Joe Catholic, so
great husband and fortunate to have great son-in-laws.
Great, great. Well, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'll move to approve Resolution 2024-30, a resolution to support
second it.
for a countywide road millage renewal.
All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? The motion passes. Next, the city council will be asked to receive an update from Police Chief Natalie Thompson.
Thank you. I'm going to change up my, the order of my memo, so the officers behind me get called out. Sergeant Adam DeBoer, Officer Joshua Lee, and Officer Filberto Garcia, if you would like to step forward. So first of all, I would just like to say that they're receiving a unit citation, but this is one of the most significant awards. The work that these officers did it was phenomenal. So I'm going to read what is on their certificate. And they were recommended by 4 different officers in our department, which doesn't happen often. Our 2 detectives and 2 sergeants recognized their work, so they brought the complaint to my attention, and I was already aware of it. On April 24th, 2024, at approximately 8:50 p.m., Sergeant DeBoer and his officers were dispatched to North Point Park, an area adjacent to the state park off of Ruggles Road in South Haven Township. The 911 caller frantically reported a man, unknown to her, a stranger, had just assaulted and attempted to rape her. Officer Garcia immediately contacted the victim to render assistance and gather information from her. The victim had fought her offender and ran. Sergeant DeBoer and Officer Lee arrived at the area and noticed a male matching the very good description that was obtained from the first responding officer, noticed him leaving the area. A traffic stop was conducted. Sergeant DeBoer noticed several things with the suspect in the vehicle. He had changed his clothing, there was sand in the vehicle, and after conducting a show-up, was able to positively identify the suspect. Crime scene analysis was also conducted, including DNA collection. The suspect, a 28-year-old South Haven resident, has been charged with second-degree criminal sexual assault, assault with intent to commit sexual assault, and indecent exposure. He is currently pending court proceedings on these serious felony charges and most likely will be going to prison. This incident highlights among the most dangerous and fortunately rare types of violent sexual assault crimes, those that involve a stranger to victim. Those are extremely rare. This is the second of the nature reported our department in decades. The officers working that night displayed the most exemplary, professional, prompt, solid police work I have had the opportunity to recognize. The caliber of their police work would be recognized as such in any police department, regardless of size. Therefore, the South Haven Police Department gratefully acknowledges Sergeant Adam DeBoer, Officer Joshua Lee, and Officer Filberto Garcia with a unit citation for a job well done. On behalf of the victim, our community, and your chief, thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Sergeant DeBoer is a very good leader, so we're lucky to have him. July 3rd planning is ongoing. This is June 3rd, we are a month out, so. Department assignments have been made. All officers and IC staff are scheduled for a mandatory 12 hours, and it's usually more than that. Assisting departments are in the process of sending me their officer information for a final roster that we complete. Meetings with DPW, maritime traffic personnel, our security company, dispatch and communication teams, and initial meetings with law enforcement assisting have been fruitful. Finalized meetings are being planned throughout the month of June. The event, as always, is being monitored by the state for any significant threats by any individuals or groups. And as always, contingency plans are available through coordination with county and state emergency operations centers, as well as the mutual aid agreements that we share with other law enforcement agencies. Parks and beach closing. Every year we get emails and concerns expressed by residents to city staff regarding park closing hours and individuals in the parks after hours. First, I always appreciate concerns brought forward, and my staff does the best that they can during our busy summer. Last week I was forwarded many emails on Monday that were sent to Aaron Preeb from the Parks Department that he received, in particular residents around Kids Corner complaining about noise and apparently saying that the police do not lock parks at 10 like we should. And it happens every year. Residents around each park and beach want us to lock their park first before others. I just wanted to clarify information. The police department is tasked with closing and clearing all city parks, technically at 10 o'clock. So we've got, and we use the keys, Totlock, Kids Corner, Elkenberg Park, Packard Park, Stanley Johnson Park, the Kalamazoo Huron Restroom, and then later at 11 o'clock, South Beach and North Beach. So just logistically with like tonight we have 3 officers on, it's just not logistically possible to lock each park exactly at 10 o'clock. So we start at 10, and I think they start at different parks, but I'm not making excuses because the officers do the best that they can, but we just logistically cannot have every park locked exactly at 10. I know they switch it up. And then if a priority complaint comes in the middle of that, something like that, I mean, I worked midnights about my whole career until I got promoted. Sometimes the bathrooms are they're gonna not get locked till maybe 2 or 3 in the morning. So it's what happens when we have to prioritize. There is one park in the city with auto locks, that is Dykeman Park. And this happened last Friday. We clear a group out from one park, beach, they go to another, and then we're chasing them all over. So I just wanted to just say the officers in the summer, they really do a good job. They do the best that they can. Years ago, we had 6 to 8 seasonal officers in the summer that just focused on beaches, parks, and downtown, and that was very helpful. So I always appreciate the input, and, I did pass on to them, really make it, if nothing else is going on, really make a better effort to make sure you're clearing out the parks and get them locked as soon as you can. But I just wanted to say they do a good job, and they try and balance that with life safety calls. And last, I have statistics from Van Buren County Dispatch, and these are for the month of April. They were included in your packet. So for the month of April, our department handled 441 calls for service. So that's steadily been going up for the last 4 months, which is common. Last month we had 409. And the breakdown of that is 259 in the city of South Haven, and then 173 of those were in the township. So that is all that I have for tonight. Any questions?
Did you have anything else to say?
No, that's have.
Any questions?
I have a question. Are we unable to have seasonal officers anymore? Was that a decision that was made?
Well, no, and actually, this was before Kate. Brian Doucette was the city manager, and it was about the time I became a deputy chief, 2012, 2013. We had the money. It wasn't pulled out of the budget, but it seems like for the last 5 years, we were getting fewer and fewer applications because our deadline was in December. And the last year that we attempted to have a program, we got 2 applications. The staffing of police has been happening for probably 10 to 15 years, and we just could not compete with full-time positions year-round. Our seasonals, April through September, and even when we had 3 or 4, we would lose them a month into the summer. I mean, when a full-time position came open somewhere, they'd be gone. So it got to the point where I think we may have had 1 application, and then by the time we could even get around to calling the person, he had found a full-time job. So it was not lack of money. I mean, we wanted them, and now today, I mean, it's even hard to find a good full-time person. So it's just, there just aren't people out there to hire.
To jump in on that, I know that we've had at least one of our positions up for almost 4 months, and it took us that amount of time to fill a replacement for one of our officers who retired. So
Yeah.
not a lot of folks going into that profession, if you know anyone. So,
Okay.
But that is a good question, and I like to make it clear that don't blame the city or they didn't take money from my budget. I mean, the money was there, we just couldn't
Okay.
fill the position, so.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
About the July 3rd fireworks?
Yes.
I was just wondering if you had any indication if attendance has been lower in recent years, or you guys are just doing a great job with traffic management, because I feel like people are just out of there instead of the gridlock from
Yeah,
before.
well, we've kind of tweaked the plan, and after the disaster in 2016, we've really tweaked it, and we keep the plan. I don't know that the numbers really vary from weekend to weekday. I know Kate had sent some information that it's pretty consistent, around 70,000 people.
Okay.
For the day. So, but yeah, our traffic control plan, we've really gotten down, I think, almost to a science. The Van Buren County Reserves help us with that. So just so you know, that takes 43 officers to man the 13 traffic control points that we have after fireworks. So, but they've really helped with that. So.
Well, you
but
guys do a good job.
This will be my last year, and I'm gonna pass on all my things to the next person, and I'm lucky to have support from you and from Kate. I think it's important to keep the plan that we have, because I'm just worried the minute that we don't, then things are gonna go bad. So it works, so I think it's a good plan to keep.
I agree. Yeah, thank you.
I was going to say, we're certainly sad to see you leave, but you have to be
Yes.
thrilled that this is the last one that you have to plan.
That's what makes me nervous. Just kidding. No, I'm not nervous. I have to be
I am
nervous.
sad too about your retirement, so you're leaving big shoes to fill, and you've really raised the bar in our town when it comes to public safety. So I know I have a few months to keep thanking you, so.
I'll be here for a little bit, hopefully, so. Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
I was asked to comment, if you could. I know this is, just off the top, but bicyclists and traffic laws. So one intersection that was brought to my attention is Dykeman and North Shore Drive, where bicyclists do not always stop. But bicyclists are supposed to follow the same laws as vehicles.
Yes.
And so they need to stop at the intersection and make sure it's their turn to go.
Yes, that is correct. Bicyclists have to stop at the stop sign. They need to, hand signal or indicate what direction they're going to turn, but yes. Yes.
Thank you, and I also express my great appreciation for all you do for our community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next, public comments. Citizens in the audience will be heard on items not on the agenda. And you have up to 5 minutes.
First of all, I want to commend Natalie for all the work she's done for all this time. We have a great police force. And just 3 examples. Last weekend, there was a fight downtown by Black River Tavern. There were some problems on South Beach after hours. And I guess there was underage drinking at Elkenberg Park. And they took care of it with no problem whatsoever, and I really appreciate that. Thanks,
You
Natalie.
have to say your name again
Well,
and
again,
address.
Dan Agnello, 964 Everett Parkway. I'm going to talk about business STR.
Excuse me?
What?
That was on the agenda, so you
No,
can't.
about signs. I'm talking about signs, not what was on there. This is a different subject. Business STR signs, okay? About the end of March, several residents sent dated pictures to zoning and the ordinance, the code officer, about these permanent STR signs. And as a result of that, Kelly Doucette sent a letter at the end of April saying that if you think you're in violation of the ordinance, you better remove your signs. We have no record on the BSA as of today or any other time that they sent warning letters or that they issued citations. And in Kelly Doucette's letter, it indicated that these signs are not allowed. These are permanent, wooden signs. There's probably 50 of them around town, okay? And nothing has been done. We've sent recent emails, no responses. There have been telephone calls to a few of the people. They've gotten no responses. We want to know what's going on. This is illegal, and we need enforcement. That's been the biggest problem. Enforcement, just like personal STRs. That's impossible. It's impossible to enforce them because, like I said before many times, they're used in the past since they couldn't get a business STR.
Excuse me, you're here to talk about signs.
Okay, that's fine. I'm talking about enforcement, the lack of enforcement, okay? So we need answers to this, okay? We brought this up many times, and there's also illegal things about the non-permanent signs, the ones that are on the wires, okay? They're in the wrong places, they're up too long, and there's no enforcement done on that. So we'd like to get some answers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Wilkins, 811 Indiana Street. As you know, I've been very active in voicing my concerns for housing. Myself and a group of concerned residents have formed a committee and have met several times to come up with ideas or at least a plan that could possibly be used to assist the city staff and the council with getting affordable housing or housing built on the Overton property. And the way of update, the committee would like to see, as we call it, the Overton 2.0 project, consist of 48 units to begin with. Somebody might ask, why 48? Well, we recognized there was a problem with the amount of suggested units to be built, and the first attempt, along with most of these projects that we learned that have been successfully completed, are on a much smaller scale. So we're recommending 48 units to start off with. The committee would like for them to include a mixed number of units, which would help with getting state funding. We realize that. It is the committee's vision with the mixed number of units to consist of a smaller number of low-income housing with rent from at least from $600 to $700 a month. I think it was the project in Kalamazoo that had a mixed unit, and we were told that it made them more competitive to get state funding. So low-income housing, $600 to $700 a month, with a significant number in the workforce area, workforce units at about $1,000 per month at the max rate, along with a number of market rate units to be determined by the developer. Suggested ideas of a plan to help the committee, help the city and the council. The committee believes that the rest of the Overton property / real estate could perhaps be used by a developer as seen fit, with limitations of similar type developments and/or housing units built to rent at affordable rate or to buy at the cost of between $200,000 to $250,000. And benchmarking other projects, the committee would like to see development units between 800 to 1,000 square feet. We also notice going to different projects in Kalamazoo and St. Joe that an added bonus was that each unit had their own laundry facilities, especially nowadays. Each unit has their own laundry facility, so we would recommend that. There was some brainstorming of the possible funding sources that city could use or go after, which included maximizing subsidies, possible tax millages, or even grants. With the support of the city staff and council, the committee would like to proceed in our process and gain approval from the city to reach out to developers regarding this plan or our plans or ideas. Also, it sounds like the city already has some developers in mind that can be pursued for this Overton 2.0 development. It would be nice if the committee could help the city by reaching out to these developers. It sounds like Griffin stated that he had some ideas, or it was stated that somebody has ideas of developers, and we would like to assist the city with reaching out to those developers. In closing, the committee realized the workload of our city manager.
You have
and
1
would
minute.
like it if the assistant city manager, Griffin Graham, could make himself available to participate in at least one of our meetings. That would be really helpful, especially since housing is a top priority. And lastly, should any community member want to provide input on this initiative, perhaps the city can provide an opportunity for that to take place. That is our update, and we have a lot of bright minds working with us, and we would like to see this project move forward. We're heading towards the summer, and it's like dead now. So we are just trying to help out and bringing housing to this area, which is much needed with the increasing homeless rate that we are facing even in South Haven. Thank you.
Any more comments? City manager, oh, I'm sorry.
Hello, Lisa Croupiers, 561 Indiana. I just want to dovetail on Bishop Wilkins' comments. I know during Mayor Brown's, when you were running, one of the ideas you had was for the city to buy up empty lots. And there is an opportunity at 408 Huron. There's an apartment building that I know has been in the process of building, improvements. And there are several empty lots in the city right now. I don't know where the funding would stand for this type of thing, but I know you had mentioned about buying up those lots, the city buying them up, and then placing, again, workforce attainable housing on those properties. So that's just to, in addition to what Bishop Joe said, I don't want people to forget about that opportunity as well.
And the city manager and I have been working on that.
Great. Yeah, because there's a lot of empty lots that are on the market. That's great.
Right.
Glad to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? Kate, city manager comments.
Mayor? I did want to kind of mention that this week it's June. The farm market starts on Wednesdays. We've been doing the Saturdays, but since we're in June, July, and August, we'll have farm markets on Wednesdays from 8 to 2 p.m. That also means that this weekend, we'll be cruising for Kylie, or the Festival of Cars. We're going to be doing something a little bit different that we've done in the past. So this, for this event, as well as Blueberry Festival, the farm market will be relocated into Dykeman Park. So there'll be restricted parking in front of the park for vendors, and you'll see that's where the farm market will be located. So I know that we've worked on that based on some feedback from last year. So the farm market will be in Dykeman Park for this Saturday. I did also want to mention that on the front page of the city's website, we do have the master plan community survey. So we are in the midst of our master plan review and update. And as part of that, we are working with the Southwest Michigan Southwest Michigan Planning Commission to get this project done. And as part of that, we are looking at doing a community survey. There's a couple different topics we're looking at: coastal resiliency, mobility. So we're looking for the community to share their voices and their ideas on that. The link is live. Please take the survey and get your comments back to us. June 18th, we are going to be having a meeting with Eagle and the MEDC and the City of South Haven, talking about the Overton site. That notice is also on the city's website. It'll be at 6 p.m. at the South Haven High School. Again, we'll be having that with the Overton site, so looking about what does brownfield redevelopment look like, and looking at the Overton site. So that'll be a good meeting for everyone to come to. We will be recording it, so if you can't make the meeting, we'll have that afterwards. It will not be live streamed, but it will be recorded. And then lastly, I know that in talking with Wendy, she kind of mentioned about having a priority session, or priority workshop, to talk about our priorities. July 1 happens to be the first day of our next fiscal year. We are working on some things that happen to be current from this fiscal year, but was wondering if council would be available to meet Monday, July 8th for a workshop, and if everyone is not in school or anything like that, maybe we can have it a little earlier in the day so we don't have to be out so late and past everyone's bedtime. If that date works, maybe we can look at either a noon or a 3 o'clock session. Does that date work for the council?
Works for me.
I don't bring my phone to the dais.
Good. Yeah. That's very good, Joe. All right, Jeff. So maybe if you don't have a conflict that day, please just let me know. That way we can set that and get that session set up. And those are my comments.
Thank you.
Question for Kate. The meeting with Eagle at the high school, is that at Listiac or in the ILC?
That will be, I believe, at Listiac.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Letitia.
First, I want to say, thank you to everyone who came out tonight. This was a colorful city council meeting. I would also like to say thank you to the police officers that were recognized on tonight. That was awesome. That was an excellent job, and good to hear that we have some good police officers in our community. And to our chief, I'm going to save my long spiel for her last time she has to get up here, but I think she knows how I feel about her, and I know that we're going to miss her, but we're not going to go there, right? We still have her right now. Also, I was just sitting here thinking how some of us are so, we're so strong about certain things, about what we think is important to us, but we never think about what is important to other people. And sometimes we can sit up here and I think, and I saw it tonight, we're very insensitive to some things, but the things that you feel is important, you're kind. But I think that, and I think I'm one of the youngest people up here, besides Wendy. But I just think that we have to be respectful to everyone. When people get up there, everyone deserves the same respect. We should not be disrespecting people. You don't have to like a person to respect them. And so I heard people talk about this community, and I represent this community. I've been here for 54 years. Soon will be 55 years, June 25th. And but I respect people, and I in turn expect people to respect me because I'm a respectful person. And it just bothers me as leaders to disrespect people. I think it's inappropriate, I think it's childish, and I think it's a lack of integrity, and I think we need to do better. So if we want to say that we are representing the community, then we need to act like a community. And those are my comments.
Thank you. George?
No comments.
Joe?
A couple of months ago, I went to the ribbon cutting for the new fireplace downtown, and it wasn't complete, but it was 80% complete. Friday night, my wife and I were having dinner downtown, and we took a walk, and we saw the fireplace now that it's complete with the brickwork, and it is beautiful. What a great addition to the downtown. So I want to thank Shout for doing that. They really made a major improvement in our downtown. I know we talked about tonight diversity. One of the things that we should make sure we do, and I hope there's no controversy, is June 27th, Juneteenth. I think it's important for all of us to go to it, and it's a great thing for the community. Lastly, I'm really proud of City Council for moving along with short-term rentals as it applies to the business non-exempt. We need this, we've been working on it, and I think things are finally starting to move forward. I would suggest to Kate to gently push, but push our law firm to move a little faster in getting it back to us, because we're under the guns with under the timetable of the moratorium, and people in this town want to see some final action on this. And I know we've given them the input they need, so let's try to get it done and get it down to planning and then back to us and finalize this. Thanks.
Thank you. Mary?
Yes, I would like to thank Kate for helping get some questions answered for residents. I know things are still getting worked out, but I had a couple people contact me regarding roads on the north side, so thank you, Kate. I was wondering, I know the staff is working on an RFP for Overton. I didn't know if we might have an estimated time when a draft might come back to City Council.
We were hoping for the second meeting in June, but that's going to get pushed back, so hopefully first meeting or two in July. So we are pushing on that.
Big shout out to Kate. I heard her on Cozy with the PSA public services announcement for the survey for the master plan. I encourage everyone to take it. The city's made it very accessible. This coming Thursday, the Planning Commission, we don't have our regular meeting, but there is a workshop on, and the master plan is part of it, and the recodification. And I am looking forward to a workshop on priorities, because I think we have a lot of ideas. I know I've talked with Wendy for beach safety and would really like to see some things happen for that. And last, so at the last meeting, it was brought to our attention by Planning Commissioner Gruber that there may be a question about an abstention for a vote, and I would like to put everyone at ease. I did inquire of City Manager Hoser earlier today when we spoke about whether she'd heard anything about the situation. She hadn't really heard anything since the City Council meeting and hadn't taken steps. So in thinking about it, this is an excellent time to bring this forward. So with our active City Council, we are having agenda items added at the meetings, and we don't always have all the information, and that does cause a situation. And I think this is something that the Code of Excellence Committee could address when some members think that more information should be required, especially when a vote is called. So I look forward to working on that with our next meeting. We're getting close, hopefully, to a draft. I want to thank City Manager Hoser for her support earlier today, stating that my abstention did not, she thought, rise to misconduct. And I do look forward to getting these types of issues resolved in our Excellence Committee. So thank you. And last, but most important, I too want to show appreciation for our South Haven PD. We're very lucky to have stellar officers and a fantastic chief to lead us and address our safety issues. And thank you, everyone, for coming out tonight.
Wendy?
Okay. I firstly would like to wish the community a happy Pride Month. I'm excited to attend the first event later this month. And also just wanted to thank all the nonprofits that were here tonight, and even those that weren't here, for all the work they do to just enrich our community. I didn't bring this up during the consent agenda, but when I was reading the packet earlier, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. There was a really good presentation in one of the meeting minutes for the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, dated March 11th. It was from Fishbeck Engineers and Architects, but just had some really cool data on housing and potential solutions and where Van Buren County's at. I don't know if that's on our website anywhere else other than the agenda packet, but I don't know if it'd be worth having out there for people to look at. I thought it was some helpful information that we could dive into as we look for housing solutions. And lastly, I know there's a meeting coming up, a dinner later this week, from some local community members trying to bring together residents and stakeholders over the STR division. And I'm not sure who on council is going to be attending, but it did seem pretty clear that the majority of us should not be going. So I know I'm not going. I just want people to know that there's a reason why you won't see all the city council members there. It's just, it could potentially be a violation of the Open Meetings Act. So I thought that should be addressed. And that's it for me.
Jeff?
Okay, and then just to dovetail on that, yeah, it's a great idea, this dinner that's being proposed. It's just to, have calmer, cooler heads talk about short-term rentals, and unfortunately, it might fracture the Open Meetings Act, and so, yeah, we had to politely decline. But my other comments were, I didn't know we were calling ourselves the Excellence Committee. I think that's great. I always thought it was just ad hoc, but we'll go with excellence.
It was in the minutes.
Yep, okay. And then Joe, Bishop Wilkins' information is awesome. That's great. That sounds really, really exciting. I know that all of us on the council, the mayor and Mary weren't here, but all of us on council voted for everything in favor of Overton in the past. And so I think this is going to be easy to get this going, and thank you for getting the ball rolling. And then finally, for Letitia, the 25th, well, June 19th, I'll be 56, so then you and Wendy can be the youngsters on the council.
Older than Wendy.
Yeah. Those are my comments.
Thank you.
You forgot Friday's our last day.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
Right, yeah. Last day for kids and staff.
Sorry, Mayor.
There should be fireworks for that.
Yeah.
My remarks are about being a welcoming community, and also for Pride Month. If you are searching, saved, black, brown, white, gay, straight, sure, unsure, older, younger, peace-filled, pain-filled, able-bodied, or differently abled, no matter how many moms or dads or divorces or kids or chromosomes or failures or successes or questions you have, no matter your gender or status or where you are from, know that you are welcome here. Thank you. If there's no other business, this meeting is adjourned.